I think that this was incredibly funny and that you guys should actually watch the primary debate for the GOP for fun. Vivek is literally the most transparent, like, snake oil salesman on stage right now. Look at his face.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. The last person in one of these
Oh shit, Vivek's on the ropes. Look at him. He's like,
guy with an odd last name support in China.
Did Vivek just lick his fingertip? What did he just do?
Mr. Ramaswamy, you would not support an increase of funding to Ukraine.
I live in perpetual terror of YouTube's inconsistent and draconian content moderation and DMCA guidelines, which is why we did a watch party. I didn't have the stream up, even though it seems everyone else did. But, you know, I stand by my decision. I think that if you are left-leaning and you care about politics enough to find it kind of entertaining, I genuinely feel like you should watch it for fun. I think that it projected incredible weakness from the GOP. I think that there was incredible inconsistency. The only person who can win the presidency, assuming the legal stuff doesn't pan out, right, would be Trump. But the GOP doesn't want to latch itself onto Trump because there are severe financial and legal consequences for doing so. So at the same time, they're trying to pull away, but they also don't want to, like, tear Trump down just in case somehow he pulls out a win against Biden. So they, like, there were people who were getting booed for denying climate change.
The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax. And we have to declare independence.
Wait, the crowd is booing that now?
The anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is more people...
The question is, like, how can you assuage people's fears that you're all a bunch of lunatics who deny reality? And he's like, no, no, no. There were people getting booed for saying that the aid shouldn't be provided to Ukraine, even though these are, like, mainline GOP positions. They were arguing over how many people they were going to kill in Mexico.
When we should use those same military resources to prevent across the invasion of our own southern border here in the United States.
What? We need to deploy 1970s era Cold War munitions to the Mexican border?
The single greatest threat we face. And I find it offensive that we have professional politicians on the stage that will make a pilgrimage to Kyiv.
It's Cold War era tech.
Without doing the same thing for people.
We need HIMARS in Texas.
Or Kensington.
I'm not going to send troops to Ukraine, but I am going to send them to our southern border. When these drug pushers are bringing fentanyl across the border, that's going to be the last thing they do.
They were openly talking about invading Mexico, by the way. Like, that was something Vivek explicitly said, that we needed to take the military equipment that we gave to Ukraine and move them to the southern border, which is never going to happen, but fascism requires a state of perpetual crisis. They basically didn't talk about trans people, like, at all. And I think a large part of that was there were a lot of irrelevant nobodies on stage, and one of them was DeSantis. Seriously, DeSantis didn't get any more speaking time and left no more of an impact than, like, Tim Scott or that guy.
Of course, I'm from a town of 300 people. It's a big deal to make it on this stage.
Who the
these folks
are you?
But
he looks like that rich guy from the Guillermo del Toro horror anthology episode. Eyebrows.
But I do want to say
eyebrows. Like, he didn't have a presence there. And I think for it to have gone from like 6 months ago with him, people legitimately considering him to be like a contender against Trump, to the state he's in now, genuinely insane. Like, he didn't have front runner energy at all. The person who got the most attention was Vivek Ramaswamy by far, but a lot of it was negative attention. He got mass booed, he got dogpiled by other people. I actually expected Mike Pence to get booed a lot more than he did, but there were a lot of people on that stage who were pretty open about going like, yeah, Donald Trump kind of might be kind of a dumbass a little bit. And I was surprised by that. I thought that they would be a little bit more hardline in not in towing the party line on that, you know, like keeping people from attacking him.
But we are going to take a brief moment and talk about the elephant not in the room.
I get it.
Former president will be processed tomorrow in Georgia at the Fulton County Jail for charges relating to the 2020 election loss.
They indicted him 4 times
to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
Holy shit, please. Oh my God! Oh my God! They're all those cowards! Did you see? Did you see? They're like, yeah. Oh my God!
Just to be clear, Governor Christie, you were kind of late to the game there, but you raised your hand.
That on day one you would pardon Donald Trump. I'm the only candidate on the stage who had the courage to actually say it. That is how we move.
The dick riding is crazy. Yeah, the two loudest people by far were probably, no, the three biggest were Mike Pence, Chris Christie, and Vivek Ramaswamy. Mike Pence did better than I thought. Chris Christie did worse than I thought, because I know he's capable of being a firebrand, but he mostly just came off kind of like sweaty and fat. And look, I've been sweaty and fat, you know, but it's not great to be those things on a debate stage. You know, there's a time and a place, you know. You leave the sweat and you leave the fat in the back room when you go up there, and he didn't. Mike Pence, I actually think did really well, in my opinion. You know, I think Mike Pence actually did quite well. Relative to expectations, certainly. Mike Pence is definitely the most professional and the most institutionally defensible person up there.
He asked me to put him over the Constitution. And I chose the Constitution, and I always will.
Yes,
I have no right to overturn
Never shut up, King. Never shut up. He's at a barbecue. He's cooking like 50 patties.
In 2024.
Thank you, Vice President
The confidence to be a minute over time and still do dramatic pauses. He didn't even start speeding up how he spoke. He just like kept the pauses in. The reason why Trump picked Mike Pence, after all, was because he was a concession to the neocons. Essentially, Trump was saying, I know you neocons don't like me. I know you don't like the fact that I'm like a complete lunatic with no political experience. So here's the most professional looking man on earth, you know, and somebody who's big with the evangelicals, right, to be my VP. And you know, I still think he carries that energy. But there was a lot of weakness, wasn't there? In the discussion on abortion, they were basically like, let the states decide, and also like people shouldn't be allowed to abort it at 55 weeks, right? I'm just saying you should be able to kill your child when they're 4 years old, you know? Like there was no hardline commitment to the abortion issue, which is insane because that's been what's driving the GOP for 50 years.
Can't we all agree that contraception should be available? And can't we all agree that we are not going to put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty if she gets an abortion? Let's treat this like
what? Wait, whoa.
Issue that it is and humanize the situation. And
you want abortion bans, but you don't want to arrest women who get abortions? How does that work? What? Look, they don't believe in anything. You can't. If you have laws banning abortion, women who get abortions are going to get arrested. What the f do you mean? This is counter because they know they're losing voters. For almost twice the length of my lifetime, revoking Roe has been the determiner. It has been the carrot on the stick that the GOP has used to drive evangelical voters. And not even just evangelical voters, just people who aren't keen on abortion. But now that they've actually done that, it turns out, whoa, full-on abortion bans are actually crazy unpopular. Like, really not popular. So it seems like they're kind of walking it back, because before they were doing this whole like, well, no, we should ban it everywhere. And now they're trying to run this like states' rights line. But there are real consequences to the direction they're going. In fact, the response they've gotten from the abortion issue has been so bad, I wouldn't be surprised if they dialed back their upcoming plans to ban contraceptive access as well, at least for the most part. I don't know. They just look so weak. Yeah, it really is like a dog trying to catch a car. They don't know what to do with it once they get it. It really is like that. Yeah, it's remarkable. I really enjoyed this debate. I liked seeing them squirm and wrestle around. I liked seeing people applauding the defense of Ukraine. I thought that was quite nice.
When you look at the situation with Russia and Ukraine, here you have a pro-American country that was invaded by a thug. So when you want to talk about what has been given to Ukraine, less than 3.5%
GOP selling people on defending our allies. Imagine a black man in an alley.
If you look at the percentages per GDP, 11 of the European countries have given more than the U.S. But what's really important is go back to when China and Russia held hands, shook hands before before the Olympics and name themselves unlimited partners. A win for Russia is a win for China.
There's a huge gulf between them.
The first line of defense for us. And the problem that Vivek doesn't understand is he wants to hand Ukraine to Russia. He wants to let China eat Taiwan. He wants to go and stop funding Israel. You don't do that to friends.
No, wait. Hold on. We don't have to be pro-Israel here.
Line of defense. Putin has said once Russia takes Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. That's a world war. We're trying to prevent war. Look at what Putin did today. He killed Prigozhin.
I can't believe she's right on Ukraine and Taiwan, but wrong on Israel.
This guy is a murderer, and you are choosing a murderer over a pro-American country.
Didn't one of the people say we need more contraceptive access? Yes, they did. The big insanity push seemed to really be on the border, talking about the border and fentanyl. Of course, fascism. And keep in mind, guys, Donald Trump might have sort of heralded the big modern wave of GOP fascism, but he is not the only fascist in the GOP. And people who disagree with Trump in the GOP, there are still plenty of fascists. Like, it's not... disagreeing with Trump's line is not like, oh, like fascism defeated or whatever. Like, it's he might represent the loudest portion of it, but that doesn't mean he represents all of it. So it seems like there was a move towards earlier iterations of fascist hysteria on stage. They didn't talk about trans issues that much. Really, they didn't talk about woke stuff much at all. They barely mentioned it. They talked a lot about the border and fentanyl.
We've got North Dakota troops down there flying night helicopter missions from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop these transnational criminal organizations. They've got better funding on their side than we've got on our side.
What if we funded drug addiction care so addicts could get the resources they need to have better lives? Sorry, I just wanted to add my voice there. Their comments on the border were hysterical. They were screeching about building the wall. They were screeching about like bringing the military down there. DeSantis and Vivek both talked about invading Mexico. I think Vivek said invading Mexico, and DeSantis said like working with Mexico to kill the cartels or whatever. Will any of this stop the flow of drugs? No. Will any of this happen? No. But again, the constant screeching is necessary to maintain that degree of paranoia. So, yeah, I don't know. It really seems like they're rolling it back to a pre-Trump level of hysteria. I wish I could go back, like, right now in my mind and think of, like, what were the GOP debates like in 2012? And I bet you they would look a lot more... I bet you the 2012 GOP debate looked more like this one than the 2016 one did. That'd be my guess. I'd have to go back and look. I'd have to think. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, that was more than a decade ago. Search on YouTube, dumbass. I'm not going to just watch several hours of it for this, like, off-bit comparison. Who's more extreme, Vivek or DeSantis? So Vivek and DeSantis are interesting. They're both demons. They're both not human beings. DeSantis is an empty puppet who doesn't believe anything and is being used by the GOP as a way of fronting an anti-democratic, insurrectionary degree of fascism without Donald Trump's, like, uncontrollability. DeSantis is an effort to take all of the extremism that Donald Trump opened the door for and package it in a more, like, professional individual. It's failing. Because he's not human, he's also very unlikable. Vivek is also a demon and very unlikable, but he has more of this, like, peppy, earnest, like whiz kid, young boy, debate lad energy. And I think his game is, like many fascists, he doesn't believe a thing he's saying either, but I don't think that he's this, like, institutional front man. I think that he is a young, probably intelligent guy who is morally a black hole. Like, there's nothing he wouldn't do for sexual thrills. Children, homeless people, it doesn't, like, he'll do anything monstrous. He, morally not even, like, an agent. He might as well, like, not even a register with him. And I think he craves power. And like a lot of authoritarians, I think he understands that his best path to power is by aggressively tonguing the asshole of Donald Trump. So he's stepping forward. He's being very loud. His rhetoric is empty but enthusiastically delivered. And I think he's doing all of it in the hopes to sort of to position himself appropriately. Does that make sense? Does that, like, so they're both fascists and they're both demons, but I think that DeSantis is just an empty puppet that's being weaponized by the GOP in the hopes of supplanting Trump, whereas Vivek is operating more as an independent agent in a desperate effort to grab power for himself. Both are fascists. Neither can be allowed to have power. It would be horrible. That's my impression. There were other fascists on stage. Not all fascists are equally aggressive, and also not all fascists are demons. There are plenty of Republican politicians and voters whose politics are fascist, knowingly or otherwise, but who aren't like moral black holes in the sense that they literally don't believe in truth and don't care what happens. There are plenty of people who, disingenuously or otherwise, have real emotional motivations and have a sense of ethics, skewed that they may be, while also politically being or supporting fascists. Shit. Some of you have like Republican family members, don't you? I bet you that some of them repeat GOP talking points, but clearly have a soul. Like, I know people like that. They believe the GOP line because, maybe they're kind of dumb, or maybe they've just been told that that's the truth, and they kind of, they go for it, right? But then, like, day to day, they clearly love and care about people around them. Like, that doesn't instantly mean that they're, but it varies, of course. Not the case with DeSantis and Vivek. Which candidate would be the best outcome for us to face? It doesn't matter. None of them have a chance. We won't face them. Trump might pick one of them as a VP, but I think it's most likely, as somebody in chat earlier suggested, that he picks Carrie Lake. That's the most likely outcome. Carrie Lake has a lot of benefits that Vivek Ramaswamy does not have. Carrie Lake, first of all, is white. Again, reminder, a ton of the GOP is just racist. So Vivek being brown, like, legitimately hurts his chances a lot. Carrie is also attractive. Like, that helps when you're a woman, especially, obviously. And she's also a lunatic in exactly the same way that Trump is. Like, she is a MAGA pundit to the highest order. She's like ride or die with Trump's wave, Kristi Noem is another option for Trump's VP. She is. I think that Carrie Lake is most likely. Carrie Lake isn't white. Is she white Hispanic? Okay. Guys, race, social construct, blah, blah. Okay, I don't know her full genealogy or whatever, all right? I like, clearly she looks like a Republican. I don't think a Republican would look at her and think like, oh man, that she looks like a thug. Like, I don't think, like, yeah, dude, come on. You think Carrie Lake steals the spotlight too much from Trump and that irks him? That might be true. It is true that Carrie Lake is also a loud, aggressive populist, and that he might not like the idea of being upstaged. DeSantis interview has started. We're going to go over it tomorrow. I'm sorry. Who do you think won this debate? Personally, I think Joe Biden did. I think Joe Biden did as well. Vivek is Soros funded too. Yeah, that's what happens when you're a billionaire. Your funding goes everywhere. Everyone is Soros funded. That's why saying something is Soros funded doesn't mean anything. Yeah, I'm also surprised by how split they were. It really speaks to a party that doesn't know what the right way forward is. Dude, when they mentioned the song Richmond, North of Richmond, and then none of the politicians talked about it, like, they just brought it up and none of them talked about it because none of them got the memo that it's being astroturfed or whatever. So they're just like, what? Like they're all like wealthy people. They don't listen to Southern, it was very funny. Vosh, are we doomed if Biden dies before the election? Kamala would probably not win against Trump, assuming Trump is capable of running. If Trump is not capable of running, I think that Kamala has very good odds against any other person that could be put forward instead of Trump. So, What happens if Trump runs third party and gets way more votes than the Republican would? That ends the Republican Party. 4 years of Trump elected as an independent could unironically end the party pushed to the center. He won't win as an independent. However, him outperforming the GOP or even stealing a huge portion of votes would make the GOP look incredibly weak. It would prove that the GOP voters weren't really GOP voters. They were Trump voters. And it would reflect very poorly on the party in terms of like internal consistency and stability. I think that what we're so like political analysis. What I think we're seeing right here, we're seeing a couple of things. First of all, like point A, the GOP is so desperate to move people away from Trump. That's point number one. Point number two, they're also desperate to move away from these culture war talking points because they're all tied to DeSantis like a sinking ship. DeSantis made his entire candidacy about like woke this, woke that, and they're leaning off it really hard. It seems like they're trying to lean back into like neocon adjacent policy stuff, which seems to me like, I mean, like this border, China, Ukraine, like this is all like classic neocon Republican stuff. So it makes me wonder if they're trying to like seriously cut the line to Trump as much as possible. You know, I really wonder. This is strange though, because sometimes like some bits of evidence here makes it feel like they're kind of trying to lean in with Trump, and some bits of evidence here make it feel like they're kind of like trying to cut them all together. You know, because like Trump is legally like Trump is done, and they have to. There is no way. There's no way. Overall, this debate is making me really happy. I think it speaks to weakness because it's all over the place. There's no coherent line. There is no coherence here. On one hand, people cheer about like pulling out of Ukraine. On the other hand, people cheer about Ukraine. People are talking about how they don't want state bans for abortion, and other people are like, "Yeah, bro, like I was the one. I've been fighting abortion my whole life." You know, people like it's all over the place. It's not just like people debating internally in a democratically healthy way. It's people having no idea what the next pathway is. You know, it does give Vivek a lot of attention, but I don't think Vivek can win. I'm just gonna say it flat out. He's young, uncharismatic, and brown. And that's it, really. I don't think he can really win within the GOP for those reasons. He's not that charismatic. He has like a whiny, nasally Ben Shapiro kind of like wizard thing going on. Like, whiz kid, not wizard, whiz kid thing going on. Like, it doesn't sell. Donald Trump, people are like, oh, well, Donald Trump was an unexperienced candidate too. Donald Trump is like a hyper charismatic, brash, old, wealthy white man. Those all play to GOP like preferences when it comes to populism. Not so much with Vivek. Vivek is getting dogpiled up there, man. Everyone else is making fun of it. People were booing him. Like, I don't know what the road forward is. It just seems like they're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that makes me feel really good. It makes me feel like they had kind of a bubble with Trump, but it's falling apart and they can't replicate that magic in somebody else. Nobody on this stage can be the president. Nobody can. Pence has too much baggage. Chris Christie is, say, too fat and uncharismatic. Vivek is too whiny, annoying, and uncharismatic, and also he's brown. Nobody up here can be president. So what are we doing? Fighting over VP slots? Like, maybe. Vivek might be vice president, but that's only if Trump wins and isn't, like, arrested or death penalty or fucking, you know? This has been wild, man. I choose to interpret all of this pretty positively for the Democrats. It projects so much incoherence and so much weakness and so much like, I guess the thing that gets me the most is that it feels like there's no one candidate that anyone could be to capture everything the GOP needs. Like, they need a candidate that has the charisma necessary to carry forward the populist agenda of Donald Trump and his campaign team. But that same agenda was what got him 100 federal charges. So they can't really do that. And they need, like, the endorsement from Trump of anybody who's not him, because anyone who Trump openly denounces will never get the majority of Republican voters to back them. But Donald Trump won't back anyone. The only people that Donald Trump will speak positively of are people who suck him off, like Vivek or whatever. But that's the problem again, because if you do that, then you're not doing the thing where you're backing off of this shit. And, like, if you're only being adored by the GOP because you sucked off Trump, why wouldn't they just support Trump? Like, this doesn't work, you know? I don't know. I don't know what the future of the GOP is going to be.